And that's what I want you to do in 2025. Build trust in yourself that when you say you're going to show up, you show up. When you say you're going to go work on your lines or work on the character, do some research or go to the gym or do whatever, you actually do it. If you got something, let it rip.
I'm never going to do this again.
Everybody grapples with this idea that you're really a fraud.
Like, I'm alive.
And that's when it clicked with me. And I thought, these are not superheroes. These are just men that can do super things.
This is Matt Del Negro, and you are listening to the new stripped down 10,000 Nos. Okay, happy 2025. This is the inaugural episode, and I want to just explain to you something. It's 11:16 on a Friday night. I am just going to riff. I told Bryce, who helps me with the podcast, this is what we're going to do. We have scheduled a few months ago. I scheduled through the end of the year, and so we need to schedule everything for 2025. And I said, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do a solo episode at some point before we go away as a family for Christmas and New Year's. And it just so happened that after a couple of Zooms today, I went to a movie, saw Gladiator 2 with my son. We went and got some food and walked the dogs. And then I said, I'm going to go to the gym because I hadn't gone. I was at the gym till 11 at night. And my son wanted me to get a hard drive with all these old pictures he wanted to look through, and happened to be in the office. So I said, okay, I'll come. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to just lay this episode down right now, and I don't want to cut it. I don't want to do jump cuts. I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan lately, and I kind of appreciate that he'll be in the middle of a conversation, and he'll go, Jamie, do you hear that buzz? What's that buzz? And they just leave it in the episode. So it's raw. So my advice to you, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just do what I do. Go to 1.5 or 1.75 or 1.25. And if it's too slow, and just compress it a little bit. It doesn't sound weird, just do that. But I think it's almost better to just keep it raw. So maybe if I have a huge gap, we can do a little jump cut. But the gist was I wanted to, I had some really good news this past week, and we did our insiders call. We had to delay it because I was in LA for work. We usually do our calls every Monday. We do a Zoom. Every month we bring someone in, like a casting director or producer or writer director or something like that, as a VIP. And I missed Mondays. I actually missed the last 2 Mondays Zooms, and Bryce led them. And sometimes that's good for the group because they get to talk amongst themselves without me there. And sometimes that's actually helpful. But I said, you know what, do the normal one on Monday, and then we'll do an extra one when I get back. So we did this, and my trip to LA was magical. That's the word I keep using. It was this big film called Crime 101. Bart Layton is the director. My scenes are with Mark Ruffalo, who I absolutely loved. I've always thought he's a great actor. I met him years ago. He was a cool guy, but that was brief. Working with him, I was just like, God, what a mensch. I mean, great guy. And Bart, this director, writer-director, great. And then it's got a bunch of other big stars: Chris Hemsworth, Halle Berry, Nick Nolte, Barry Keoghan, Jennifer Jason Leigh, lots of people. It was only 2 days on set, and it was frickin' amazing. And then right before I left, 2 offers came in for TV shows, which may or may not be able to be worked out for scheduling reasons, that would shoot this spring. So I'm in a good groove. Which, if you listen to the podcast at all, you know that is not always the case. There are many times I'm kind of doing these episodes, or you're getting a clip from me on Insiders when I've been in a slump and haven't worked for literally 7 or 8 months straight. That's not even that rare, which is crazy and sad. And if you're an actor, writer, director watching this, which you probably are, just know that you're not alone, and you're not crazy when you think that you're delusional, or you think, God, like nobody sees me. Because that's what I kind of came away from this LA trip. Not only did I get to go see old friends on a personal level, because we lived in LA for 17 years, and I haven't stepped foot in California since we drove out of there in June of 2021. So 3.5 years. So that was awesome. But on the set, I felt seen. They were very kind and generous in their feedback. The work was great. I loved the writing. I loved the scenes. I loved Ruffalo. I loved the way it was shot. Every time I looked at the monitor, it looked great. And it was just like you feel seen. And that's what happens in this business. And that is the gist of this entire episode, because it's the beginning of 2025. And I just want to say to you, whether you're new and you've never even heard of 10,000 No's, or you've been watching for a long time, it's like you chip away, and then once in a while, the wall breaks through, or the dam breaks, or whatever metaphor you want to use. And I've always used the Shawshank Redemption analogy of Andy Dufresne chipping away. If you know that movie, he had the pickaxe hidden in the Bible, and every night behind the Raquel Welch poster, he would pull it aside, and he would chip away at the wall, and then he'd go out during the day on the prison yard, and he would crumble the rocks in his pockets, and they'd come out where his feet are, and he'd spread it out. And he did this for like 30 years, and he had an escape plan. And he had to climb through a sewer and get all muddy and get out, but he had this vision of this place, Zihuatanejo, in Mexico. And he told Red, who's Morgan Freeman, he said, "You're going to meet me in Zihuatanejo. When you get out, go to this rock in Massachusetts or wherever it was, and there's going to be a map and blah, blah, blah," whatever it was, money that's going to get you there. That's been the analogy. It's that and Rocky Balboa have been my two career analogies. I put them in the book, 10,000 No's, you can see back there, and I really believe it. And what's nice is right now, for whatever reason, God shining down on me, timing just being right at a certain point, maybe it works out. For whatever reason, I happen to be in this situation where it feels like everything's working out and the ball's bouncing my way. It feels like a magnet for good shit, which feels pretty good, because sometimes it feels like a magnet for bad shit. So I want to give you that at the top of 2025, because I want you to know, this is a new year. It's a fresh start. You could probably go back and listen. I've been doing this podcast since 2017, summer of 2017. So you could probably go back to all of the New Year's episodes, and they probably have a recurring theme here, whether it's right before the new year, right after the new year, which is it's a good time of year to go clean the slate, fresh start, let's go. So I'm suggesting you do that. And hopefully by the time this comes out, I think it's January 6th. So hopefully you've kind of already done that. I can't even remember what the last episode is. The title, I have all my titles up here, and it said how to make next year better than this year. So I guess that's kind of a recurring theme. I probably said the same shit last week, so sorry. But hopefully that helped you to take that time, the holiday time, you're with your family, but maybe just get alone and just kind of reflect on the year and think about what you want this year. So hopefully this episode's not coming to you too late. It's still January 6th by the time you're seeing this. Or maybe you're seeing it in 10 years. I don't know. Maybe it's the year 2050 by the time you're watching this. Either way, wherever you are, my point is this. Another thing I said in the book, why not me? Why not me? Because I went through at least a lot of my career going oh, that guy's going to get it, that guy's going to get it, that guy's going to get it. That's the cool kids. I'm over here, I'm on the outside. And what I've learned doing this for 3 decades plus is that I've met some people that are pretty big stars and people that have won Oscars and all of that stuff. And they kind of all feel like that or felt like that at one time. We all start as outsiders, as beginners. If you've read that, the book I listened to on tape this year, which I was just talking about the other day, it's so good. I highly recommend it. Ed Zwick, great director, wrote a film called Hits and Flops, something like that, My Adventures in Hollywood or something. And what he did really well, I was telling someone, he really takes you on a journey. This guy has done everything. He did Glory, he did Last Samurai, he had that show 30-something. He's just done everything, right? He's won Oscars. But when he starts the book, and I listen to the audiobook, so it's his voice, I believe, reading, you feel like he's this 18-year-old pimply-faced kid from the Midwest who showed up in Hollywood and really felt like an outsider. And he kind of carries that narrative with him throughout a large portion of it. And at a certain point, I think he realizes like he's kind of on the inside, but even when he's on the inside, he feels like he's on the outside, because that's kind of how Hollywood is built a little bit. It's like hits and flops. When you have the hit, you're the insider, you're the cool kid. Then you have a flop, which he had some of them, and nobody wants to touch you. It's like you've got the plague and nobody wants to be around. So my thought to you at the beginning of this year is just to realize, one, why not me, right? Why not you who's watching this? Because at some point, the roulette wheel goes around, and at some point it lands on every number. So at some point it could land on your number. Why not? So have that belief and know that like things can change on a dime. I mean, this stuff is all happening for me in the last couple of weeks. And you go back before that, I had made a tape a month ago that I was like, God, I don't know how I'm not going to get this job. I love this tape. I think it's great. I love the material. And they were like, yeah, no. And then you're out cold. And it's easy for me right now, as me and my buddy Chris Messina like to say, when you have a job, it's easy to be the Dalai Lama, or we would say like the Dalai Maddie right now, or the Dalai Chris. It's easy for me to go, oh, just relax, guys, because I have a job. I have a job lined up. And that's what's crazy about this business. Like, you don't realize that you're not nuts when you're not working, when you are working your ass off, but you're not getting paid, or you're not getting seen, or you're not even getting the non-paid jobs, which happens and has happened to me a lot. You're not crazy when you feel like, what the hell? Like, am I delusional to be doing this? No, just keep chipping away. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but there's a restaurant downstairs, so a lot of times I don't shoot at night in here, but I'm doing it. But I can hear the music coming up. And it's like, it's 11:27, right? And there are people down there. It's a Friday night. And, I don't like to make a tape when that's happening because it's in the background. Hopefully you can't hear it. I got my little lav mic here. Hopefully it's picking up good audio. But I almost don't mind for this episode, because I want you to hear that there's something prideful about that like people are out partying and I was at the gym and now I'm in here. I'm putting in my hours. I'm putting in, that 10,000 no's comes from the Malcolm Gladwell theory from Outliers, which is 10,000 hours. You look at the Beatles, you look at, anybody. It's like they put their time in before everybody knew who they were. Their 10,000 hours. And for me, that's kind of a play on that. The 10,000 no's. You get your 10,000 no's. It's like those no's are they're just getting you closer to those yeses. And there are yeses along the way. I lost my train of thought. Here we go. Perfect. Maybe we were going to do a jump cut here. Where the hell was I? I guess the point is that I'll leave you with is it's the work. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's the work, because there are many times this year alone, the last couple of years, I remember being up here, whether I was making a tape or sometimes I just come into the studio and I know I'm going to be making a tape. Usually I make it with Blake Robbins, my buddy who's out in LA, and we do it on Zoom. But a lot of times I'll come in here, I'll set up, the lighting is pretty much set up, but I'll set up the camera, what my frame is, how I want to shoot it, because sometimes there are different ways I'll shoot something to like kind of tell the story better or help me get the character across. So I'll come in, and then also it's like a rehearsal, and it's just me, and I'll kind of run through the scene sometimes, and I'll lay it down on tape, and maybe I'll look at it, or maybe I won't. But I've done that like the night before making a tape that typically I don't get statistically, but I walk out and like it'll be cold here in Long Beach and it's raining or whatever, and it's like a Tuesday night and it's like midnight, and I walk out and go to my car and I just go like, one, I'll usually say a prayer and be like, thank you for keeping me fired up and keeping me passionate, and I'm 52 years old and I'm still into this. You got to be a little bit crazy. And two, like there's a little bit of like a, I don't want to say pride, but like, there's a little bit of like, I guess it is pride, or it's like, confidence that comes from knowing that I'm working my ass off, whether they're coming in or they're not. I'm working. You know, and my son, we had this conversation today because he always says, oh, school, what do I care about school? Like, I'm never going to need to know physics. I'm never going to need to know biology or math. And I'm kind of like, yeah, he's probably right. The kid's probably going to be an actor. But I'm like, it's not about I don't care if you get good grades to get into a good college because it's going to be some status thing, which I think a lot of parents sometimes do. They want to have their kids or like an appendage to them and they want them to go to a great school, and it's some of that happens. I'm like, I don't care about the grades. I care about you figuring out your work ethic. And what I explained to him, and I'll say it to you, is like, I played sports my whole life. I wasn't a particularly gifted athlete. I was fine. I was okay. But I loved it. And I worked my ass off. And somehow, by the grace of God, I was able to play Division I lacrosse. People think that's a bigger deal than I think it really is. But still, it's something. I'm not going to negate it. And so when I did my first play, my junior year of college, I stopped playing lacrosse. I did this play. I did a 2-night performance. Maybe you've heard me tell the story, in a lecture hall at Boston College. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I was like, I'm better at this with no training than I was at sports my whole life of working at it. So even though everybody's telling me it's really hard, I got this far with sports and I wasn't that good. I think I can get pretty far with this because I know I'll work hard. And that's what I'm saying to my son about the grades. It's more about the work ethic. And I'm saying it to you. It's about putting in the hours, because when you do it, even when it doesn't matter, for that audition you're getting through Actors Access or Backstage.com that's not going to pay you, that seems like a shady project with people that are not even that good. When you put the effort in there, it gives you confidence when you get to the next one that's a better gig. And then you put the effort in there, it gives you confidence when you get to the next one and the next one and the next one. You're building trust in yourself. And that's what I want you to do in 2025. Build trust in yourself, that when you say you're going to show up, you show up. When you say you're going to go work on your lines or work on the character, do some research or go to the gym or do whatever, you actually do it. You do it. Because when you build that trust and you know, hey, I can rely on myself, that gives you confidence. That lets you drop your shoulders. That lets you go whew, and show up on a set loose as a goose and ready to rock and roll. So that's what you want to do, 2025. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want me to do. I think it's going to be a good year for all of us. And that's all I got. I don't think we have to really cut any of that stuff. I think I had one little section where I didn't know what I was going to say, but you know what? We'll let Bryce be the decider of that if he wants to do a jump cut. All right, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. 10,000 No's. And now look at this. Perfect. My son's doing Find My iPhone. I think that's my exit. All right, gotta go. All right, that's it. By now, you know this episode was not ripped from one of my Insiders Acting Community Zooms, but if you dug it, it means you probably would be interested in joining our community. If so, if that sounds like you, go to 10,000nos.com to join. In the meantime, thanks for listening or watching. Either way, we're glad you're here. And remember, failure is just opportunity in disguise. You can flip the script and make your setbacks serve you. See you next time.